John's Market Minute. Today we're going to be discussing real estate investment, and I welcome my guest, Dennis McInerney of McInerney Law Offices in Burlington. We're going to discuss the legalities. Before you go and invest in a property, you should know the legalities. Hi, Dennis, how are you?
Good, Marilyn. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. So my first question, I've decided to take my money and invest in a residential home. Is there any difference, legally speaking, between buying an investment property that I'm going to rent out to students or just a normal, well, it's a normal home, but I'm not going to rent it out
To a family?
students. Yeah, to a family. Is there
Yeah.
any? Okay.
Well, there's a lot of practical repercussions, but legally, the home is a home. You're going to buy it. If you are going to present to your mortgage lender as though it's an investment property for rental purposes, they may have some questions concerning whether you're renting it out to a family, whether you have an existing lease arrangement already, whether it's going to a number of students. So from a mortgage qualification perspective, you may want to vet those issues up front. From a rental perspective, I mean, you've been in the game long enough to know that an in-law suite is often code for an illegal rental. So if you want to do it by the book, you may want to do your due diligence in advance and see what the zoning is. You can get snarky neighbors that don't like the fact that the property is under a rental, report it to the city, and next thing you know, you've got some zoning issues. So from the rental perspective alone, there's some things you want to do, regardless of whether it's going to be a family that's renting it or students. From a student perspective, I do have a number of clients that have bought properties primarily because they've got a student going to University of Guelph or Western or whatever. And rather than pay rent, they have bought an investment property and they basically put their daughter or son there as sort of a quasi landlord on the premises, and then works out an arrangement with the students. As you can appreciate, students come and go. Students are not the most as opposed to a family, they may not be the most practical solution for a rental. The question becomes, what I see is a lot of students are obliged to get a parent to guarantee the rental situation for a certain period of time. Is it a year-to-year lease? Are they off the hook for rent in the summer months when they're not there? More often than not, it's hard to place students in a rental. So more often than not, what I'm seeing is that they're paying for the summer months, whether they're there part-time or not at all, just because they need to secure lodging. So, and again, student placement is a bit tricky because they're basically boarders in a house. There's no defined unless there's an upstairs and a downstairs with cooking and bathroom and laundry, and both secluded units, a separate entrance. You're basically looking at a situation where they're collaborating on the rent. They're sharing the kitchen facilities. So more often than not, it's a group of students that are maybe in the same program, and are known to the child of the person investing. So there's somewhat of a controlled type of atmosphere. And usually what I'm finding is when they are student rentals, and if they're designed basically on a short-term situation while somebody's child goes to university, at the end of the graduation, they usually put the place up on the market rather than try to turn it over to a whole crop of new students without anybody there to sort of act as eyes and ears in the property. Yeah.
Is there any difference between me buying a resale home and a pre-constructed home or condo for investment purposes? I know what the difference is between, you should have your lawyer look at a pre-constructed contract because
Right.
it's on builder's forms and make sure you want to buy it. But is there anything else that we need to know about renting them out?
Oh, about renting them out? Well, yes. If you're buying a newly constructed property, Usually the builder works their contract such that they pay the HST that's associated with buying new. So basically, they build the HST into the sale price. Resale properties are exempt from HST. So basically, home buyer comes along, signs the contract. Um, Builder pays the HST, but the home buyer is entitled to an HST rebate, providing they live in the property or they have a family member living in the property. So if you're renting it or you're flipping it and you don't have any intention to live in the property, whether it's a freehold new build or a condominium new build, you're going to get hit with a fairly significant HST payment at the time of closing. Now, you can apply for that back on your taxes. Your accountant can do it, or there's services that do it. But the bottom line is you could be putting $20,000 or $30,000 extra out on the sale date that may not be in your budget. So it's a huge outlay at the outset. You can recapture it, but why pay it if you don't have to? So one of the things I do when I do, like you say, when somebody sends me the purchase agreement to review, there's usually a 10-day cooling off period or a conditional period that allows the lawyer to review all the documents. That's one of the biggest things that I mention to them is, are you going to live in there? Are you going to have a family member living there? Or are you going to rent it out? One of the other things on a new build also is that you've got to be mindful of the adjustments. So they have a couple of pages dedicated to extras that they add on to the sale price, water meter hookup, Terrian warranty. And the big unknown is usually lot levies or development charges. They usually don't put a dollar figure on them, and they could be significant. So typically what most lawyers do is they recommend to their clients that you try to cap that at a certain dollar figure. And the builders know it's coming. They have a pre-designed idea of what they want to cap at, but it's this little cat and mouse game that goes back and forth before the deal is firmed up. More often than not, though, it's usually a 2 or 3 year process before you actually get the property. So investing in a property, my daughter actually just bought a property up in Waterdown, closing in a couple of years, because basically as a new member going into the residential market, these kids don't have much of an option. So if they can put out $30,000 or $50,000 in deposits, and then sit for 2 years and basically sponge off their parents until such time as until the house is ready. And believe me, the parents are more than willing at that point to help them move into their new place. But by then, I mean, I've seen it here in Burlington and the Aldershot. There's a complex out there that within 2 or 3 years, it increases in value almost twofold. So you're not going to lose by buying a property, even if you have to pay some extra charges and development fees, because its market value at the time the deal closes is usually quite significant. Now, the builders nowadays, with COVID and everything, probably didn't see the inflated cost of construction coming into the picture. So they've signed all these contracts to sell a certain property, but then their overhead factor has just gone through the roof. So I'm not quite sure how they're handling that.
And nor do I want to even guess.
No.
Okay, I've become a landlord. Should I,
Okay.
I know it's kind of a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Should I familiarize myself with the Landlord and Tenant Act before I want to become a landlord?
Yeah. I'm a lawyer. I do real estate law. I get the odd landlord and tenant question, but I'd be lying to you if I said I was well versed in it. You should absolutely. I've actually been schooled on it a few times by my own clients who do their due diligence and find out about it, because those laws are always changing. Um, and as a real estate agent, you definitely want to know the rules going in, because if you're going in there planning on displacing a tenant because you want the property for personal use, there's certain things that could need to be taken into consideration. You might have some sort of right of first refusal. You have to bring these tenants back in. The tenants' rights nowadays are something you definitely want to research, because to be quite candid, I don't have a full grasp of them. And I have had clients over the last, especially under COVID, and there's certain rules on eviction that that you can't evict a tenant even if you're selling a property. So it's a bit of a crapshoot for agents and buyers coming into a property. You definitely want to either get some form of signed termination agreement with the tenant, or get some sense of comfort they're going to vacate the property. But to your original question, absolutely, you should keep yourself up to speed on the Landlord and Tenant Act, as well as any changes, especially under the climate of COVID or any
Right.
other changes upcoming. So, yeah.
Okay. Dennis, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
You too, Marilyn.
Thank you. Would you like to give out your contact information, please?
Sure. It's Dennis McInerney. I'm at 3310 South Service Road in Burlington. You can get me at dennis@mcinarylawyers.com. McInerney is a pretty convoluted name, so it's MCENIRY lawyers.com. Phone number is 905-634-3424. And happy to do this with you again sometime with some other topics if you wish.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I'm
All right.
Marilyn Palmer from Right at Home Realty. You can contact me through www.marilynpalmer.com or info@marilynpalmer.com or 416-995-2187. Thanks again, everyone, for your time.
Take care.